Hi everyone, good afternoon. It is Sarah Shipton here from Scrapbooking with Sarah, and I am coming live to you today on Tuesday, July 22nd with this week's Technique Tuesday. And I am super excited to share this layout with you because I just love the colours and these photos make me super happy. I have been to the nail salon today. Kayla and I went to get our nails done earlier today, and we have a new colour which coordinates with the paper suite. Can anyone guess which colour nail polish I have gone with that coordinates with this beautiful paper suite, Celebratory Sips? Kayla has joined us live today. Hi Kayla, hi Doreen. Thank you so much for joining us live. So if you are watching this live in my Facebook group, you will know that my post that I put up yesterday with this week's challenge shares that I have started a little earlier with my August featured paper collection. So if you are new here, every month I pick a designer series paper or a suite collection or a scrapbooking workshop kit to teach for the month. And in the month of July, I've been featuring weekend adventures. And this is, well, we've got 5 Mondays in July. So this technically is our 4th weekly scrapbooking challenge for July. Next week, I haven't decided if I'm going to go July or just wait till August. That can be a future Sarah problem, right? And so every week I teach a weekly scrapbooking challenge, and I work with a paper suite that I'm featuring for the month. Now, this paper suite is called Celebratory Sips, and I'm going to be featuring this during the month of August, but I was ready to create with this now, girls. Okay, so thank you for being flexible, and thanks for playing along. Can you see why I was so eager to get going with this? It's bright, it's fun, it's vibrant, it's happy, and I just have so many different celebratory moments that I want to scrapbook. This one in particular, these photos were taken on board the cruise ship, the MSC Meraviglia, in the middle of the Mediterranean Ocean. This was an incentive trip that I earned during my time with Close to My Heart in 2018. We had a Mediterranean cruise, 7-night Mediterranean cruise, and this was our sea day. So we had a day at sea where we were crossing across the Mediterranean from Italy over to Spain. And our sea day, we hung out, we had some cocktails, we went for a walk around the ship, and then in the evening, we had this beautiful function where Close to My Heart hosted us for a pre-dinner drinks function, and then we went and had our own plans for dinner, and then we went as a group to go and watch the Cirque du Soleil show. And so this particular layout encompasses all of those things: the sea day, the pre-dinner drinks, it doesn't show Cirque du Soleil. We had a business meeting during the day. I've actually already done my layout of Cirque du Soleil. But it does also feature our specialty dinner. And then after dinner, we went for a walk around the ship and we went to another bar and had some cocktails. So as you can see, this paper suite is going to get a really big workout in my scrapbooking because we have so many wonderful moments that we have captured where we are celebrating life and all things life. So the pattern that we are working with this week is a double page spread. I am working with a how-to pattern book that I've got in my library. It's called the Reflection Scrapbook Program. And I am working with pattern 1F, which is on page 19 of the ideas book. If you are in my Facebook group, the pattern is published in my group. Now, this pattern shows a single page spread. However, I've just cut everything twice, and then I've been able to make a double page spread. So to get started with, you will need 2 sheets of 12 by 12 inch, either cardstock or designer series paper. You can see in this instance, I've gone with coordinating designer series paper from the Celebratory Sips Suite Collection. On the back side here, we've got this gorgeous star pattern with the colour Pool Party. It could also be Cloud Cover. It's kind of a combination of the two. And so it's not very often that I would use designer series paper as my base pages for my layout, because I just love designer series paper and I don't like covering them so much with photos and other embellishments. However, when I looked at all of the papers that I had in this designer series paper pack, I knew that this was the layout that I wanted to, the pattern that I wanted to go with for the base pages of my layout. You're also going to need 2 strips of paper that you're cutting to put across the top of your title. Now, keep in mind, you can change the orientation of your layout. You might want to have your 2.5 inch strip going at the bottom of your scrapbook page. You can even have it running along the left and right hand sides of your page, or you could run it through the inside. So you're going to need a 12 inch length in strip, and it's going to be cut at 2.5 inches wide. So here I've used the Blackberry Bliss cardstock, the two-tone cardstock. I'm going to take this out of my memory protector and show you this close up in the camera. You can see, because I've used the two-tone cardstock, when I've run this cardstock through my embossing folder, and I'm going to demonstrate this to you today, you can see that because it has embossed the cardstock so well, you're actually getting some of those paper fibers are actually not tearing, but I guess breaking, and you can see that the white tone of the inside of the paper is actually coming through. Okay, so I'm going to share a little bit about the two-tone cardstock with you today, and I've used the gorgeous coordinating embossing folder that goes with this suite collection. It's called Glass and Gardens embossing folder. So now I'm going to show you the ribbon today, okay, because we're going to wrap this ribbon around and make this as a little bit of a focal point for your photo map. But I also want to show you this embossing folder as well, because it's not a 12-inch embossing folder, and I want to show you how I've been able to get that on my layout effectively, where it meets in the middle there. You're also going to need another section of either designer series paper or cardstock through the middle here, and you're going to cut that at 8 by 5 inches, and you're going to put this in the middle of your 12 by 12 sheet of your base pages of your layout, and this is going to go here in the middle, and then you're going to mat a 4 by 6 inch photo over the top of that. So you can see you've got quite a thick border there, and that's why I've decided to go with this particular technique, where I've used the gold mesh ribbon at the bottom. I've just wrapped that around the paper a couple of times, tied a cute little bow, and that's then ended up being a focal point on my scrapbook layout. Now, with your photo sizes, I have actually gone with the master pattern. So I've got a 4 by 6 inch portrait photo through the middle here, and then I've got 4 photos around the outside of that focal photo, measuring 3 by 3 inches. Now, there was no cutting instructions for mats. However, I did put the photos down, and because the background paper is quite busy, I decided to mat my photos just to anchor them a little bit. And using the cloud cover cardstock, which is one of the coordinating colors for this particular suite collection, I've actually opted to mat all of my photos. So when I cut my mats, I cut them at 1/4 inch bigger than the photo size. So this is a 4 by 6 inch photo. So I've cut my mat at 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. And these 3 by 3 inch photos, I've cut my mats at 3 1/4 by 3 1/4, okay? And I've used the cardstock cloud cover to do that. And you can see that I have done that for these photos here as well. And also my focal photo here with the 4 by 6. I had this extra photo left over. This was actually a selfie. So I was here on the edge with Ariana, and this is Monica. My friend Monica, and this is her sister. I was going to say Claudia. I'm sure it's Claudia. So we went for a little wander around the cruise ship after dinner, went to the bar, had a drink, had a look around, and I took a selfie of us out on the deck. And because this was a landscape photo, I couldn't fit it in anywhere, so I've cut the girls out to make it 3 by 3. And then I wanted to pop me on there, but because I had to cut it down, I've cut this at 2 3/4 by 2 3/4, so my mat is actually 3 by 3. So I wanted to sneak me on there, on the layout there, and I've just popped me over the top in the middle here where my cardstock is meeting, you don't see that embossing line. So that's what I've done with my photos here. You can see that I did have a flip flap on the top of this memory protector. So I love that flip flaps enable me to add extra photos onto the layout. I love taking photos of my food. I know some people think it's a bit a bit naff, but I absolutely love it. And I've got some 3x3" photos here in a 3x3" flip flap. I love to stick my photo back together so it doesn't slide around in the flip flap there. We had dinner at one of the specialty dining restaurants, the steakhouse, and it was absolutely incredible. I do love a good steak. And they brought out this incredible, it was like a cookie with like melted butterscotch sauce and ice cream, and it was in like a hot skillet pan. They served it like that at the table. And so I love taking food photos. And how cool is that? I've got the whole day for on the ship, all of the things that we did rather than scrapbooking multiple pages. I've got a flip flap here on top as well. So this was taken at the specialty dining restaurant, and something fun that I love to do, sometimes I will screenshot when I travel. I tend to post a lot to Facebook or my social media, and then it pops up in my memories, and I went through and screenshotted a lot of the stories that I type. It's kind of like a bit of a blog, and I've actually cut this down and stuck it over the top of the photo. This was actually all just dirty dishes on the table. So this is 4x6" photo, and I've just cut this. This was a photo I printed, a photo of a screenshot I've printed. I've cut this and then just stuck it over the top of my photo here. And this little photo collage was actually at the bottom of the screenshot. So it had popped up in my memories as a post. I screenshot it, and I've got a little kind of collage of photos here that actually formed part of the screenshot. This was cut at 3x4", and then this is also at 3x4". I didn't have another portrait photo measuring 4x6 to stick on the back of this one. So quite often what I like to do is cut 3x4" at landscape, and then I can stick them onto the back of a 4x6" photo. Okay, so just wandering around the ship for the day, and I've decided to use some of the photos in here because the colors actually go really nicely with my suite here. So that is my layout. We've got a little bit of an embellishment cluster up the top here, which I'm going to talk about today as well, and then the ribbon wrapping. So let's get right into it. What am I going to start with? Let's start with the embossing folder firstly. So, actually, no, I'm going to start with the papers. I'll start with the papers. So, the Celebratory Sips is a suite collection that is an online exclusive. So, this dropped in May, at the beginning of May. If you head to my website, Scrapbooking with Sarah, oh my gosh, I just had a mental blank. Scrapbooking with sarahshipton.stampinup.net. You can click on the hamburger menu in the top left-hand corner, and then in that little menu, you will see some circles, and in those circles, you will see online exclusives. So online exclusives are a range of products that you will not see in a printed catalog format. You can also just go to the search function and just type in Celebratory Sips, and this whole suite will pop up, okay? You can see that I've used the back of this Blackberry Bliss designer series paper here on my scrapbook layout. So with the suite collection, I've got the designer series paper. I've got the gold mesh ribbon, which I'm going to be sharing with you today. I've got these super cute holographic resin dots. So I've put them, let's take this out of the memory protector. I've put these resin dots at the top here. Okay, and we've got this cute little embellishment cluster, which just pop up. And these are in different sizes. You can purchase all of these products individually. I went with the suite. The suite was $138. I will post links to all the products after. You can purchase all these items individually, but I went with the suite because I knew that this was going to be a suite that I would use a lot of, okay, in terms of all of the products, because we just have lots of occasions where we are out living life, having fun, celebrating. This is the embossing folder, the Stampin' Cut and embossing folder. You can see how small it is compared to the larger one that I demonstrated last week. So this is a great size for scrapbooking. These smaller ones, obviously, work great for cards, but I love to be able to show you how you can use these size embossing folders in your scrapbooking. You get 2 embossing folders in this set, and it's called Glass and Gardens. So you've got this kind of glass pattern. It reminds me of like those windows or the panels, like the side panels of your front door that you had at your home in the 70s. This kind of like, there's a name for that particular type of glass. Not mosaic, I can't think of what I'm trying to say. But this is what I've used on my scrapbook layout here. And then you've got this floral pattern. So this would be the gardens of that. Now, these are standard size embossing folders. So I'm going to demonstrate this to you today in terms of the sandwich that you need to use for your embossing folder. And the suite also came with the Cheers and Sips bundle, which has both my photopolymer stamp set in here and also the dies. Now, I have demonstrated these stamps and dies already because this suite collection went live during May. I have done a couple of layouts already using the stamps and dies. So you can go back through the videos via the project section of my website, or you can just go to my YouTube channel, Scrapbooking with Sarah, and you'll see the previous videos I've taught there. In our Facebook group, Facebook delete our live videos after 30 days. So the videos, I don't actually think I did a video with these because I reckon these layouts were scheduled while I was in Bali, which means I didn't do a Technique Tuesday that week. So you can see the images in our Facebook group, but I haven't done a Technique Tuesday using the stamps. I know I've demonstrated the dies because, check this out, you're about to be completely mind blown. One of the things that I love that Stampin' Up! Does really, really well is all the designer series paper is actually designed in-house, right, by our artists. That's why it's called a designer series. And so it's created in-house. We've got this really fun pattern with these cocktail glasses. So this was a 12 by 12 sheet of paper, okay, and I've cut this down at 6 inches to be able to get it through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. So these are the dies that I've cut out. Now, can you already see here this cocktail glass here, the highball? This is a highball glass. I know that because I used to work in hospitality, food and beverage. Back in the day, girls, a highball. And this super cute little wine glass tumbler. This is a wine tumbler. These actually fit, these dies, you're going to be mind blown, these dies actually fit over the top of the paper. So you can buy just the dies on their own. And if you don't feel like stamping, this is a bit of work. It looks very effective, but stamping, die cutting, it's a little time consuming. It looks so cool, right? But if you are having a lazy crafting kind of day, you could just cut all of these pictures or elements out of the paper, right, using the coordinating die. And then you can create your own embellishment clusters using these dies. And that's actually what I've done here at the top. And I've even cut fussy cut some pieces out, but I've even cut some of the dies, the shapes off that are on the edge of the paper, because then you can tuck them in and underneath other papers and you can make this cute little embellishment cluster. So I've put this embellishment cluster here to meet in the middle where the Blackberry Bliss cardstock meets, so you don't see that that join piece, which I'm going to demonstrate to you. So I've cut these out using the dies, and I've fussy cut some of the little botanicals that you put inside your cocktails. And this was a sticker left over from my sticker sheet. The scrapbooking workshop kit I'm going to feature for August is called Celebrate Together. And that Celebrate Together scrapbooking workshop kit coordinates with this suite, okay? So I had a sticker left over, and I've just cut some cloud cover cardstock to mat this sticker on some dimensionals, and then I've created this cute little cluster at the top. And on this side here, Again, I had a little sticker left over from my scrapbooking workshop kit, and I've just tucked that in and underneath my photo. So that is how I've done that embellishment piece there. So isn't that so cool? It's very, very clever. And that is it for the Suite collection. So let's get into it. I want to demonstrate this embossing folder for you. We've had some miserable weather here in Adelaide today. So I've got my Stampin' Cut and emboss machine here. And I've got my plates. So for this embossing folder, we are going to use our one plate. We are also going to use, because we've got a standard embossing folder, we need both of the 3 plates as well. And then we're going to put our embossing folder between the 2 3 plates to create a sandwich. So I love that these instructions are on here. And in fact, if you follow Stampin' Up on the socials, and me on the socials, you will know that they do this Back to Basics series on their Facebook and their Instagram. And they actually just posted a reel like earlier today showing the embossing folders being used, both the standard, the 3D and the hybrid. Okay, so you will definitely want to check that out. I am going to grab some cardstock. I'm going to get, oh, here we go. I've got some cardstock here that I've already cut down. So this is too wide though. So we need to make this 6 inches. So I will get my paper trimmer and just off to the side, I'm just going to cut this down at 6 inches. So we can fit it through the embossing machine. But, oh, Sarah, come on. It doesn't need to be 3 inches. What did I cut that piece of paper at before? Let me check my pattern. I cut it at 2.5. Okay. Switch on, Sarah. Let's cut this at 2.5. 2.5 inches by 12. All right. So here is my paper that I've just cut off to the side of camera. So this is 2.5 wide by 12 inches long. Now, as you can see, it is too long for my embossing folder. And Stampin' Up's embossing folders don't have like a slit here where you can feed the paper through, okay? I would really love it if that was the case, because that would make our scrapbooking lives a lot easier for those of us that work with a 12 by 12 size. But what I've had to do is run this through once and then turn it around and run it through a second time. So because this doesn't run through, there's no gap there, I couldn't do like a continual pattern, okay? So I had to get a little bit creative here, but that's the best part about what we do, right? So I'm going to pop mine now. This is where I was talking before about the two-tone cardstock. So Blackberry Bliss, this is Blackberry Bliss. If I was to turn it over, it's two-tone. So the lighter side is a lighter version of the original color. So if I just say Blackberry Bliss, then that means the color as it is. If I say light side, then we're turning that over and we're using the lighter tone of that particular cover. Now, the two-tone cardstock, the way it's dyed, it has a white core in the middle. So the cardstock starts out white and then it's dyed on one side and then dyed on another side, which means that when you do this type of embossing or tearing or paper distressing techniques, you are going to see the white core or the white edging of your cardstock, okay? So it just gives you extra creative options when you are working with your cardstock, which I do love. It's not as thick as the Stampin' Up cardstock. So the Stampin' Up cardstock, which now you can only get in A4 size, that is dyed all of the way through, okay? So it is much thicker. I like that the two-tone is a little lighter because it obviously doesn't make our scrapbook albums super heavy. So I'm opening my embossing folder. I'm going to just line up my Blackberry Bliss cardstock here, and I reckon I lined it at about there. Now, you will note that the pattern on the embossing folder doesn't go all the way to the end. So I'm just lining that up. It's probably about 1/8 of an inch from the hinge. And I'm just lining that up, and then I'm going to put it in my sandwich. I've got my base plate number 1. Because this is a standard embossing folder, it's not as thick as a 3D embossing folder or as thick as a hybrid embossing folder. If I was using a 3D or a hybrid, then there are a different sandwich order that you need to use for your plates with your Stamp and Cut and Emboss. So please make sure you read your instructions. I'm going to put plate number 3 down. We're making a little sandwich with my embossing folder and my cardstock, putting the other plate number 3 on top. Just going to pop my embossing folder down, and then we are going to run that. Oh, I've got it on the paper, so it's not sturdy. Let's make sure it's not on the paper. Rightio. So we are going to run this through the embossing machine. Just get it going. And you can hear the paper fibers, actually embossing as that's running through. I'm going to pop that to the side. And here we go. I have got my beautiful pattern, okay? So you can see that that has embossed quite hard through my paper, and you can see the white fibers are actually coming up there. What I did was I just turned my paper around. I lined that up at here. So it was in line with the glass pattern. We're going to get that out again because I need to run it through a second time. So I would love if they had those slits in the hinge, but they don't. I've definitely popped something in the suggestion box for that. We're going to run this through a second time. I love my Stamp and Cut and Emboss machine. This is the 3rd machine I've invested in 11 years. And hands down, it's the best one. Okay, so when I take this out, you can see, obviously, because I couldn't run it through the hinge to make that continuous pattern, I've ended up with a pattern at the top and a pattern at the bottom. So all I did was pop my cardstock in my trimmer. And then I cut this at 6 inches. Actually, it's a little bit out, sorry, because we had that 1/8 of an inch gap here that we don't see. So I'm just going to line that up with where the embossing folder met in my machine. And I'm going to trim that. So I've got these 2 6-inch pieces now that if I turn them up the right way, then the pattern's actually going to be continual now, okay? And then what I've done here on my scrapbook layout is I have met them. Now the instructions will say that your 12-inch strip is going to align from the left to the right of the base page. However, what I did was something a little bit different, and I've just popped it up on an angle. So I did have it flat, okay? And I mean, you can certainly have it flat. There's no, you know, whatever you want to do. But I just put mine a little bit of an angle just to make it fun, because there's this white border around the outside of my designer series paper. So I just met that in the middle like so. And then I've stuck that down, and then I've put my embellishing over the top so you don't see where that cardstock meets in the middle. And you know what? Even if you did a layout where you did see where the cardstock met in the middle, I don't think it's going to be, like, it's not going to be the end of the world, right? So you could have that all the way to the edge. I could have had that flat if I wanted to, and I could have met that up. You can see I didn't do a perfect job of aligning that in my embossing folder, but it doesn't matter, right? It's not the end of the world. It's just paper. It's just paper. So I had so much fun playing with that. You could run like a little sander over that, a bit of sandpaper, or a distressing tool, and you could bring out more of the white core of the cardstock there, if you wanted to. So now I'm just going to demonstrate this gold mesh ribbon to you. So I had this space down the bottom here where I thought, well, this would be fun to add the ribbon. And so I've just wrapped that around my mat, and I've stuck that down on my page. Okay, so I wanted to show you how I did that. I'm just going to use this little bit of paper here that I've got left over from my scraps. I've got my gold mesh ribbon. So I did use this on another layout that I scrapbooked of Kayla in Fiji drinking her mocktails when she was 14 on a netball trip. I need my Stampin' Seal. Where is my Stampin' Seal? I brought it in here because I need to use it for our video. Okay, hang tight. I'm just going to go grab my Stampin' Seal. I've got my snips ready to go. Give me 2 seconds. I didn't bring it in. I've been working in my front room over the weekend. I had workshops here. And I've also been participating in the Stampin' Up! Virtual Album Retreat. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of Stampin' Seal on the back of my designer series paper. And I'm just going to stick my gold mesh ribbon onto here. Now I wrapped it once, twice, that time, and back again. So now I'm going to cut this with my snips. That doesn't need to be tidy because we're going to stick that underneath and you're not going to see that anyway. I'm going to wrap this around the paper. Oh, I did this a little bit different this time. Okay, we're going to do something different. I didn't wrap it like that. I know what I did. I'm going to start again. I'm going to start again because I want you to see how I did it. I'm like, actually, no, I didn't do it like this. Right, what I did was I kind of eyeballed it. So I've got a bit of ribbon here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I cut it off. That's right. Because I had this excess bit that wrapped around. So this should be a little bit longer now. I'm going to stick that on here. And we're going to wrap that around here. That's right, I did too. And then with this excess, that's right, I made a cute little kind of like half bow. And tied that along, that's right. That needs to be a bit tighter. There we go. I always like come up with these great things when I'm at home on my own and then I have to do it in front of the video. I'm like, that's not how it went. Okay. I might tie that again just so it's a little tighter. And pop that through here like so. So it's not like a bow as such. There we go, make that tight, and then I just cut that with my snips. Ah, isn't that so cute? And so by twisting that around a couple of times around the back of it, so it's flat at the back and it's crossed over here at the front, and then I can use this now as a photo mat for maybe a 4x4 inch photo or a 3x4 inch photo. And of course, I want to get a placeholder out. And this should, I could pop a little 3x3 inch photo there with a 3 1/4 by 3 1/4 photo mat underneath it. So just a cute little embellishment tip there, girls, with the ribbon. Quite often it's like, oh, how do we use ribbon on our scrapbooking layout? But there are ways, let me tell you. And then so what I've done on the other side, I've just done it back the other way. So I've got one cute little bow wrapped around here and one cute little bow wrapped around there. Now, when you go to stick this on your scrapbook layout, you will need to pop some adhesive around the outside here, and then also some adhesive on top. You could even put some Stampin' Dimensionals just to keep that in place as well. And then you've got a cute little embellishment for your 12x12 inch scrapbook layout. So I hope you have enjoyed this week's Technique Tuesday, girls. I will post links to all the products that I've shared with you today in the comments below. I can't wait to see what you come up with this week, and I'm going to be spending a little bit of time today and tomorrow catching up with the last 2 weeks challenges. I know some of you have been very, very busy posting your challenges. Thank you so much for sharing them. I can't wait to look at them properly. I have literally been scrapbooking for about 6 days straight, Thursday through to last night with workshops and album retreats. So enjoy this week's challenge. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. Have a great week. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.